Isaiah chapter 58 and verse 1. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgressions, and the house of Jacob their sins.
Copyright disclaimer. This content does not belong to Bible Chronicles or claim this intellectual property. The content provided today has and always will belong to the content owner. Bible Chronicles does not have any affiliation with the owner of this property. As mentioned, Bible Chronicles does not intend to make use of any material for the purpose of harvesting gain. However, Title 17 of United States copyright law states material and use can only be done when it's for theological or general educational purposes, and thus Bible Chronicles believes that this principal material falls under fair use, which honors protection under Section 107 of the same U.S. copyright law.
You call us anchor babies, look in the mirror, pilgrim. You the anchor, chain the world with your system. You landed uninvited, flags dripping with disease. Genocide in your pocket, Bible on your knees. You call it God's will, I call it mass murder. Burned the villages, left the land fertile. You killed the buffalo, poisoned the corn, then wrote your version so the guilt was reborn. You claim we built this, but we were the stone. We were the bones beneath the home you own. Your pioneers were trespassers in disguise. Settlers with muskets, not visionaries. Wise manifest destiny, not a step with a prayer. You baptized the land in blood, so God put you there. You erased the tribes, wrote freedom on graves, and called us illegals. When we came to reclaim, you feared brown babies, cause truth's in their skin. It's the memory of the ones you couldn't erase within.
You claim the Indians had no laws, no reason. That's the lie you used to justify the treason. No sense of ownership, that's what you said. Then fenced off the earth and left nations dead. But where's your moral code? Where's your soul? You preached 10 commandments but broke every scroll. Thou shalt not kill, yet blood fills the land. Thou shalt not steal, yet you took it by hand. Thou shalt not covet, but you craved the gold. Thou shalt not lie, your history sold. You claimed it was God who told you to conquer, but no holy voice spoke from that slaughter. You built your laws on stolen clay, just to leave birthright just to stay. Foreigners on foreign lands made rules to remain. Then cry invasion when brown blood claims the same. You talk immigrants, but let's get it straight. You came uninvited through genocide gates. We're the descendants of the ones you displaced. Our roots in this soil, yours fake and misplaced.
From Canada's north to Tierra del Fuego, your empire marched like a plague, a slow echo. New Zealand, Australia, the pattern repeats. Whiteness expands, indigenous bleeds. You speak of law, I speak of sin. You claim discovery, we were already within. Our temples were standing, our language is alive. You brought steel and smallpox to colonize. Your civilization was built on bones, and you dare judge us for crossing your zones. We didn't cross borders, the borders crossed us. You redrew the maps and demanded our trust. Homestead acts, free land for your kin, stolen from natives who were fenced in. You got rich on acres, drenched in blood, then told the survivors to pull up from the mud. You call it heritage, I call it crime. A genocide echoed through centuries of time.
Your statues of pioneers stand tall and clean, but they hide the screams of the tribes unseen. You made heroes from killers, saints from thieves, then rewrote the story the world believes. But history's back with a vengeance and tone. The truth can't stay buried made in the stone. We remember MESHIACHA, Maya, Inca, the line. Still breathing, still teaching, still divine. Brown skin ain't foreign, it's original code. Indigenous DNA, that's the mother lode. You call us aliens, that's projection, bro. You're the import, the cargo, the shadows glow. So don't talk borders, you're standing on crime. This continent ain't yours, it's stolen time. Hey.
So listen, America, face your reflection. Your wealth is a monument to disconnection. You stole the gold, the land, the sea, then labeled the victims to justify greed. You took our names, replaced them with Hispanic, so we forget the tribe, systematic panic. You renamed our nations, erased our tongue, then sold our image back to us for fun. We are not Latino, we are not Hispanic. We are the blood that built the planet. And now all the Lenka, the Quechua flame. The real America carries our name. So next time you talk about who belongs, remember whose bones built your songs. We don't need permission to breathe this air. Our roots go deeper than your flag declares. So to the system that profits from lies, beware. We're waking up, we're everywhere. Truth ain't treason, it's revolution. Brown resurrection, poetic restitution.
I never see myself different than a Mexican. When I see a Mexican, I see myself in them. We are the same people from the same stem, the same heart, the same soul, no us or them. We might speak Spanish with a different accent, have customs that changed after times so tragic, but underneath it all, the truth is massive. We the same roots, just different branches. Remove the border, eliminate Spanish, and the lie of division starts to vanish. We both indigenous, same ancient planet, same genetics. History can't banish the same old trunks in our veins. Our ancestors' blood still remains. Nicaraguans, Hondurans, Costa Ricans, Belizeans, our link is deeper than flags or regions. We are brothers, sisters, not defined by lines. The nations are modern, but the truth's divine. National pride divides the mind. Genetic memory intertwines. I never see myself different than a Mexican. When I see a Mexican, I see myself in them. We are the same people, it's evident. Same blood, same fire, same element. We might speak Spanish with a different tone, build customs on lands we now call home. But underneath flags and foreign names, our roots still whisper through the veins. Remove the borders, remove the tongue, and you'll hear the same ancestral drum. We both indigenous, we've been one long before conquest ever begun. From El Salvador to ancient Mexican lands, same story carved by foreign hands. They called us mestizo, changed our face, but couldn't erase what time can't replace. Nahua and Maya, we share those trunks. Our spirits connect through the blood that runs. From Pippo Hills to the Yucatan sun, we walk the same road, just carved by guns. Across the border, native kin still fight, Lakota, Apache, the same old plight. On reservations, under neon lights, but the spirit still dances in the night. Different flag, same pain and cry. Different sky, but the same brown skin. From the Andes peaks to Amazon cries. Our people still breathe while empires lie. In the Guianas they speak in French, but that's just another foreign trench. In Brazil, they guard the sacred air, lungs of the planet, they still care. Same struggle, same story told. Different crowns, same stolen gold. Divide and rule, that's all they sold. But our unity's fire never grows cold. Modern nations draw their line. Genetic truth don't pay no mind. We're one people, so combined. Different colonizers, one blood, one kind.
viene a decirnos con mucha firmeza y gran convencimiento lo mismo que nos decía en el siglo XVIII el barón de Holbach, ¿no? Un filósofo francés de origen alemán. Si nos remontamos al comienzo, entonces hallaremos que la ignorancia y el temor crearon a los dioses. La fantasía, el entusiasmo o el engaño los adornaron o desfiguraron. La debilidad les rinde culto, la credulidad los conserva, la costumbre los respeta y la tiranía los apoya para que la ceguera de los hombres sirva a sus propios intereses.
God darn it. Check. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Hold on a second, family. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you can hear me? All right. I don't know why the background's like that. All right. Give me a moment, fam. I was trying to find something for you. Oh, yeah, I was playing these real quick. I was trying to find something for you. Regarding what was just said in the song. I found this older brother from Mexico on Facebook. I didn't, he's not like a Facebook friend or anything, but he was talking about how we should all stop calling ourselves different names by, like, say, so-called razas, but more than anything, mexicas. And he didn't just mean Mexico, Mexicans and shit. He meant like the continent. That this is the continent of the mexicas. That's what he was, referring to. As we go through the video or the class or session, I'm gonna try to see if I can find this. I think, and I'll show it after. So I'll try to find myself moments where I can search for this, because I think today is an excellent topic. Now, I'm not here to defend this fucking dweeb here. Nah, fuck no. By the way, hello, fam. Let's say what's up to everybody first. Hey, what's up, sis? Good to have you here.
Que alguien me explique.
What a quick. All right. I'm not here to defend this. Matter of fact, we're here to make a case with regards to what kind of like the atmosphere right now. These people, right? These people here, they've been talking a lot with, this whole Charlie Kirk dude that got shot. They're all emotional about it. But, even within their emotions about it, they're still wishing to go and kill people across, the land that doesn't look like them and that looks more like me, obviously, right? That's in that Caucasian, Anglo-Saxon spirit, I think. You know what I mean? If you pay attention, not all of them, because they're not all Anglo like that. But you get your good section, and I think that all usually falls under MAGA maggots is what I would say. So, with that being said, here's the reason why I chose this title. Because, like, I keep hearing about the assumption of, like, slavery wasn't not a bad idea. Slavery wasn't a bad idea. I keep hearing that. Okay. All right. And it's usually from these fucking neo-Nazis or right that believe in the Bible, their New Testament. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, we'll talk about that another day. But they don't understand that when you pay attention to them and you know about the history without being biased, you can really see who they truly are. Let's begin. Hope you guys.
Will I burn just 'cause I'm white? Are the heathen thou shalt smite? I thought I was safe inside the crowd. Even if I meet a right, I know I'm safe through faith in Christ. God, am I in need of might? Jacob, I've loved these, I've hated. That means if you look like me, you won't make it. The God so loved the world that whosoever except for you and myself. If you believe on Jesus Christ, well, I mean, like unless you already know my. Am I in need of my?
Now, I wanted to throw that in there because I think they think this is funny. You know, they think that owning slaves is funny because they think that it doesn't apply to them. You get what I'm saying? Hey, what up? Hey, miras, buenos días. They think that it doesn't apply to them. But I'm here to tell you, like I've always been bringing out facts in this channel. I am not biased nor racist. I know you guys think I am. I'm just bringing out facts of what people have done and what they have brought and who they came with and how, whatever, all of that good stuff, right? So I am here to tell you, dear white folks, white people, Caucasians, Anglo-Saxons. So you've been through this shit before. You've been owned before as well. Okay? Now I know that in your little tiny, whiny little mind that may just like, nah, bullshit. I am telling you right now, you've been a slave before. So when you guys are talking about being, slavery wasn't that bad, it's in the Bible. Okay, be careful what you're wishing for. Remember, you guys are saying that, well, slavery wasn't that bad or slavery was good. It almost seems like you guys want to be there again. Now, let me remind you, fam, that they give you hints. They've been giving us hints. I'm saying, like, a lot of us looked at this movie like, you know. Pero ellos sabían, hermanos, de que son una bola de pendejos.
Want some sugar, old-timer?
You could get hurt doing that, Doctor.
Oh, don't be silly. He's perfectly tame.
They're all tame until they take a chunk out of you.
Well, Bright Eyes, is our throat feeling better? Still hurts, doesn't it?
See? He keeps pretending he can talk.
That Bright Eyes is remarkable. He keeps trying to form words.
You know what they say, human see, human do.
He seems to want something.
I'd be careful, Doctor. What'd I tell you? Oh, try that again and I'll break your arm!
Dr. Zayas, he's over here. There, can you believe it?
Yes, amusing. A man acting like an ape. He has a definite gift for mimicry.
Most unusual. He's using that old blanket as clothing. Look, he's moving his fingers.
Only because he saw you moving yours.
Oh, but perhaps he understood.
Man has no understanding. He can be taught a few simple tricks, nothing more.
Keep in mind that this was the way they used to talk to you guys. I'm going to show you how this was the way they used to talk to you guys. And see, this is why you don't wish upon slavery, even though it's in the Bible. I honestly, I don't have it in my spirit to own slaves, fam. Like that, this doesn't, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't roll with me like that. Now, the Most High, whatever. You know what I'm saying? You know what it means, man. But I don't wish that shit upon people. Because, you know, when you can't trust humanity to have self-respect for themselves. You know what I'm saying? Let alone have health respect for another human. Let me see if I could actually do this real quick. Let's go here. I'm just gonna show you this video. Oh, matter of fact, now you know what? Let me not forget. Let's see the. Give me a second, fam. Let me just get this real quick for y'all. I've shared this book to you before, or I've shared this book with you before. Okay. And you know, it's pseudo, but there are some true things in here. Oh, hold on a second. It doesn't give me the whole book. Give me a moment. The Golden Age of the Moors. I think I may back to borrow it. Yes, sir. Let me borrow it real quick. Let me borrow. Bueno. All right, so we just saw a video about how people look at y'all. Okay? Let's pay attention real quick. I'm telling you, man, this stuff is written.
Do we want some sugar, old-timer?
You could get hurt doing that, Doctor.
Oh, don't be silly. He's perfectly tame.
They're all tame until they take a chunk out of you.
Well, Bright Eyes, is our throat feeling better? Still hurts, doesn't it?
See? He keeps pretending he can talk.
That Bright Eyes is remarkable. He keeps trying to form words.
You know what they say. Human see, human do.
Monkey see, monkey do. You know what they say. Now, one thing is for sure, that in 711 AD, the Arabs, Mohammedans, they did go into Spain and took care of business. So he's not incorrect about this stuff here. What I want to bring to your attention, though, is this right here. On page 336, it says this. They are nearer animals than men. Now, this is what the Saracens, the Mohammedans, the Moors, this is what they're saying about white folks, Anglos, Europeans, right? Pale-skinned people of that region. They are near animals than men. They are by nature unthinking, and their manners crude. Their bellies protrude. Their color is white, and their hair is long. In sharpness and delicacy of spirit, and intellectual specificity, I believe, they are nil. Ignorance, lack of reasoning power, and boorishness are common among them. This was what the movement of the Mohammedan / Moor / North African / Arab, just to make sure we understand this, when they conquered that land, how they looked upon the Anglos. Basically, the bottom barrel, okay? The Moors had a particular low opinion of these whites, okay? They had beaten them often on the battlefield, and with inferior numbers, even the Europeans and other countries of this continent were looked upon with disdain for their low intelligence and base ways of life. Now, there were several of you guys listening and shit, and maybe I might have offended half of you, and I'm glad I do this. I enjoy offending people because that means that I'm telling you the truth, okay? Because this is a reality that a lot of y'all don't want to accept. Modern European historians agree with Moorish writer Michaud in his History of the Crusades when he described the Prussians of the 13th century as being just a few stages above savagery. Who are the people that constantly call our gente savages?
Wait a minute. Who are you?
You see, before you guys check out, you should listen. You should pay attention. Because this is extremely important, especially now at this time where there's dishonesty. Some people claiming that they were here. Some people claiming that they got enslaved. And guess what? When you look into statements like that, some people claim that they're the ones that civilized the world. When you peel when you peel that layer back and see beneath their statements, you find out how fucking fake they are. The reality is that if you so-called white folks want slavery back, you must understand that you've been enslaved yourself severely here as well. You're not this great nation of people. You need the help of others for you to achieve it. Now, when you're dealing with, certain type of people, maybe, but clearly we see that you were looked upon as a savage, as beneath shit. The places of then rulers of Germany, France, and England were, when compared with those of the Moorish rulers of Spain and Portugal, scarcely better than the stables of the Moors. You see this? This is in 700 AD, basically. We talk about savagery a lot. Y'all want to make it seem like you were so fucking civilized since the Greek times. You forget about who the hell you've been and how you've been enslaved yourself. Do you really want slavery back, Mr. White Man? I don't think you do. You don't have enough to do that anymore. Before, you had ignorance against you. That's what was going on. And you had firepower on your side. Against ignorance, it's very easy. Nowadays, it's not like that anymore. You see, there's a lot of nationalities now around us. And they're not going to side with you. The places of, because listen, you got to be mindful of what you're fucking saying. Now, why do I keep stressing this? I'm going to show you a video right now. Like, what? Are you serious, man? Does this gringo not know? Does he just not know, or is he stupid? Or is he just a young one that still don't know how to wipe their fucking ass yet? Because I think a lot of them no se saben limpiar el culo, güey. A lot of, well, y'all don't even want to know. Let's listen to this silliness, bro. Okay, so do you want slavery back? This is why I'm stressing this out, okay? We're going to go through the history of how the so-called white man has been enslaved. They were never superior than everybody, family. It's basically when just nations conquer nations and people, supplant others, and you had your chance to rule and the other guy didn't rule at that time, and then now you got your chance to rule, and then you're not going to rule again. You're going to end. Your shit's going to end. That's just the way life is. If you believe in the Bible, then you must understand, because apparently you guys are all fucking Christians. I don't know how the hell you can even look, you gave it away the moment you started worshiping December 25th. And it was so important for you, especially when you're like, the New Testament says December 25th. Bro, that's exactly what the Romans did. That's what the Romans did. Now, if you believe in the Bible, then you would understand what this means. Here, I'll make it very simple for you layman. Ecclesiastes 3:15, whatever happens or can happen has already happened before. Let me repeat that again. Whatever happens or can happen has already happened. I don't even know why they put before. It's like repetitive. Before. Happen. You know what I'm saying? God makes the same thing happen again and again. From dust to dust. We're just an addition, unless, you know what I'm saying, you're really being called upon. But look, listen, every nation has been enslaved, and you know what the weakest ones were? Very clear to me, based on historical facts, has been you guys. Let's go.
Kinder than God. That we are more merciful than God, more holy than God. None of that is true. We must stick to the revealed word of God. And a quick note before we jump in, I thought Allie Beth Stuckey did a good job in this debate. Being surrounded by all these folks, that's hard to do. That's hard to do, to debate 20 people like in one sitting, all right? So she did well, but on this issue of slavery, on the topic of slavery, I think that she set herself up for failure with her answers that we're about to see in this clip. Okay, and now before we jump into the debate, I just want to clarify, just so it's just crystal clear, I am not saying that slavery was a positive good for society. I am not saying that we should bring it back. I am very happy that white Christians abolished slavery in the West and basically across the entire world, or most of it.
It's total bullshit. And by the way, the only reason you guys cared about abolishing slavery was because your crackety asses were getting enslaved by people. Yes, you were being enslaved, and you were sick of seeing your people being enslaved. If it wasn't because your people, eventually you guys kind of like figured it out, like, wait a minute, hold on a second. We got to have some white power here. Somebody woke up with that thought process and shit and started seeing like, hey, we can't have Christians getting enslaved anymore. Then you started passing laws. The only reason you fucking cared about slavery was because your asses were getting fucking enslaved. Because without a weapon, there ain't much you can do.
All right, I'm very happy about that. I want to make my thesis very clear for this episode, and it's very simple. The Bible does not teach that the institution of slavery is inherently sinful. Therefore, Christians must not say that the institution of slavery is inherently sinful. That's it. That's my thesis for the episode. And if you're wondering, why even bring this up? Why ruffle the feathers? Why talk about this hot topic? Well, if you don't already know, then the answer to that question should become abundantly clear by the end of the episode. So let's jump into Daily Dose, where I, Joshua Haynes, bring you Christian conservative cultural commentary, and we apply the word of God to the world around us. Today, guys, I've got a spicy one. Got a spicy one for you. Prepare, buckle up. Here we go. The institution of slavery is not inherently evil. I know. Some of you guys are upset by that. Some of you guys are...
Institution of slavery, he says, is not inherently evil. Now, he is justifying slavery based on the Bible and going to Leviticus to justify slavery. Okay. Now, let's remind ourselves that this book, prior to the invention of white Jesus and, you know, Mithra and all that fucking Krishna Jesus worshiping shit, right? This don't pertain to you. So these laws don't apply to you. And we're gonna learn how they didn't apply to you, because we basically see the excessiveness of your just bestiality. Let's go.
I've been saying that for years. Okay, I'll take it a step further. It is not inherently evil to own another human being. I know, just wait. Some of you guys are really upset, but let's talk through this, because it is very important that every Christian affirm what I just said. And not only should they affirm it, every Christian in today's society should be able to defend what I just said.
Remember, keep in mind, and the reason why you see this so-called white man, right? He says shit like that because, like, oh my God, with his little fucking furry shit. What is a squirrel? Like whatever, bro. So the reason you guys talk this way is because you think you've never been enslaved. No, fuck no, bro. Y'all were the bottom barrel. They are nearer animals than men. They are by nature unthinking, and their manners crude. Their bellies protrude. Their color is white. Their hair is long. This is in 700 AD, basically. In sharpness and delicacy of spirit and intellectual spicacity, they are nil. Ignorance, lack of reasoning power, and boorishness are common among them. Now, remember, keep in mind that these are also the times of when we read the 13th, tribes, like the movie The 13th Warrior. That's the kind of mindset. The Moors had a particular low opinion of these whites. They had beaten them often in the battlefield and with inferior numbers. Even the Europeans and other countries of this continent were looked upon with disdain for their low intelligence and way-based life. You see, and this is why you would sit here like a white man and act like talking about slavery like it's no big fucking deal, because you think that it never happened to you or your ancestors. Hell the fuck no, you've been enslaved. And this is the truth. And the reality is that when you came to America, Mr. White Man, you were a slave here as well. And we already read this a couple times, so I'm not even going to go any further. Now I'm going to show you a couple short videos of Thomas Sowell. And I appreciate this man because he brings the fact. And we're going to get deep into it. Because look, listen, bro, the only reason why you white folks want to talk about like, oh, slavery, it was fucking funny. No, it wasn't funny. And the only reason you think that it's funny is because you think that it didn't ever happen to your ancestors. Well, let me be the fucking first one to tell you, you little fat fucker in your couch listening to me right now. Your white crackety ass has been enslaved. And if you keep this shit up and society starts breaking apart, you will be somebody's slave again. I guarantee you, brothers and sisters, based on what I've learned and heard and just grew up with knowing, when you go to jail, bro, most of y'all do get checked. Unless you have a groupie of some crazy fools. And there's not a lot of you guys. It takes psychopaths, and then, you know what I'm saying? There's a few of y'all that do that. That's why they looked upon you guys like this. This is not me saying it. These are facts, or else this wouldn't have happened to you.
Has been a universal institution for thousands of years, as far back as you can trace human history. And what we're looking at is if slavery is something that happened to one race of people in one country, when in fact the spread of it was around the world. In 1776, which is when Adam Smith published The Wealth of Nations, as well as when the United States got started, he said that Western Europe is the only place in the world where there is no slavery. And even the Western Europeans had vast numbers of slaves in the Western Hemisphere, but not in Western Europe itself. And so if you're going to have reparations for slavery, it's going to be the greatest transfer of wealth back and forth, because the number of whites, for example, who were enslaved in North Africa by the Barbary pirates exceeded the number of Africans enslaved in the United States and in the American colonies before that put together. But nobody is going to North Africa to ask for reparations, because nobody is going to be fool enough to give it to them.
Ouch. And this is why I like this topic, because the door is swinging both fucking ways. I'm like slapping both of y'all at the same time. Because you know what? This is the reality, and both of you don't want to admit it. One doesn't want to admit that they helped the white man enslave everybody else, and because, again, that doesn't go with the 1619 narrative. And the white man don't want to admit that they got help, because then that makes them not as superior. You're not getting away with that shit here. Yeah, I want to talk about slavery like it's funny. I never thought it was funny, bro. Like, I honestly, you know, even though I believe I'm a Hebrew, I that's not why I believe it. Like, oh, I can't wait to be rich, Father. I can't wait to have slaves, Father. I can't wait to get the white man, Father. Nah, man, that's never been my interest. Let alone assuming that, oh, I can't wait to treat people like slaves so I can enjoy watching them. What? Watching them, what, bro? Like, I don't have that hate like that. I get mad. Fuck yeah, I get mad. But hate like that, to see another human being like that, to that level, I don't have that in me. So I don't believe in this because of that. And you guys do, though. Listen clearly. You really want slavery again? You really want to make fun of slavery? And I'm talking to you white folks right now, because it's most of you that think this shit is funny. And I'm also telling you so-called African Americans that think that, oh, you know, only you guys were the ones enslaved. Fuck no, not at all. Y'all were slavers as well. And we're going to show this today, okay? So I'm not defending nobody here. I'm just bringing out facts. And if your emotions get hurt, well, I'm glad you're on this channel, because that's one thing I do the best, bro, is hurt people's feelings.
Back to your book, the third chapter is the real history of slavery.
Yes.
What is the real history of slavery?
The slavery was much bigger and involved infinitely more people than people have realized. It was not confined by race. It was not defined by race or created by race. It existed for thousands of years. A history professor had a student come up to him and ask him, well, when did slavery begin? And he said, you're asking the wrong question. The question is, when did freedom begin? Because slavery existed as long as we have any records. And from archaeological finds, we realize that people were enslaving other people before they could read and write. So that's always existed, and it's existed all over the world. The number of white people enslaved by pirates in North Africa was greater than the number of Africans brought to the United States. And yet that's not even mentioned in most of the discussion. So I tried to look at slavery as a worldwide phenomenon, and it's something that's lasted for thousands of years. And I also tried to ask the question, why did it end? It ended here because of a civil war, but it didn't end anywhere else because of that. It took over 100 years to root it out. And again, the literature, there's tons. You can find the shelves groaning with books about the United States, the Western Hemisphere, and Africans, but virtually nothing about the rest of it. This book about the Europeans enslaved by North African pirates came out in 2003. By 2004, you couldn't find a copy. For all practical purposes, going out of print. There was just no interest in it.
What should this knowledge that you put in this chapter, what impact should that have on people who read it in this country? What impact do you want it to have on them?
Well, I guess I want them to understand what the facts are, which is a major undertaking in itself. And also to realize that racism in the United States grew out of slavery, but slavery didn't grow out of racism. That Europeans enslaved other Europeans for centuries before the first African was ever brought to the Western Hemisphere. That wherever there were people that were vulnerable for whatever reason, those were the people that were preyed upon. Even though for most of history, those who enslaved and those who were slaves were the same race.
Have you ever gone back and looked at your own family history?
Not really. No.
You have no idea where your folks came from originally?
No, I guess I don't know even the names of my grandparents.
On both sides?
On both sides. Partly it's because I'm an orphan, and so that there was that link was cut. But I really don't know the names of the people who would be my grandparents in the adoptive family either.
Did you ever know your original parents?
No, I have no. My father died before I was born. And my mother, heavens, I was so young that I have no memory whatever of her.
Yeah, that's some fucked up shit right there. But I'm glad that he found his way, man. You know what I mean? I'm glad he found his way. I have more respect for people like that. Well, people like him, I should say, than a lot of you fucking fake ass bastards. You want to claim as if you had nothing to do absolutely with all of this stuff. Like, come on, bro. And then you want to over here assume that others are below you because supposedly you were so much fucking superior. Now, come on, bro. You weren't. Matter of fact, you look at any professional team, right, of the U.S. And at first they'll start with a bunch of gringos and shit, right? And then once they can't win, then they bring the so-called black man. That's what you guys do. It's very common. You see it in sports. It's funny to me, bro, that you guys don't realize that shit. So now, and again, this goes for both of you. This door is swinging both ways, bro. Hey, thank you, brother, for sending me that, man. I appreciate you for sending me this video. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. It was good. That's why I said everybody gets a chance to rule. Shit is over for both of y'all. You can try. You're gonna try. I know you're gonna try, Mr. White Man. I know you're gonna try, like they did too. But it's just cuando es tu tiempo, güey, es tu tiempo, güey.
Yo, so I remember my guy come out telling me Black American chattel slavery was not just for economic reasons. It was for revenge. That's why it was so barbaric. That's why they would do things like eat us, cook us, rape the men and the women and the children and all that crazy shit. And I was like, revenge for what? He was like, well, we ruled Spain. I had to go do my own research. And I was like, okay, the Moors ruled Spain for 800 years, from 711 to 1492. Now, when did Christopher Columbus sail the ocean blue? When did he discover the Americas? Christopher Columbus grew up in a black ruling society. all of the math and the sciences and the religion and the cooking and the food and the knowledge of bathing and more things that the Moors brought to Spain. So this really was revenge. This was really them saying, y'all had your turn. We get it. Now watch what we do. And why don't we ever learn that in school?
That was good only to a certain point. Only to a certain point. When Christopher Columbus was around, they weren't all necessarily Swarthy. Okay. Now, for you guys that don't understand what this means, is basically that we're proving that the first people that were here used, like, you know, they were mostly dark-skinned Swarthy people family. They were the superior, they were the upper hand. They had the upper hand when they first got here. Okay? That's what we're listening to right now. The whole point is this, man. You know, so-called white man, apparently they want slavery back. Apparently they want slavery back. I'm like, why would you want what you've been through already, bro? Now, this is why maybe you're so evil in your ways, because you've been through this and you never want to be here again. So why would you want slavery again? Because America is not a white predominantly country. There's 330 or 40 million people, and they're not all white like you.
Kinder than God, that we are more merciful than God, more holy than God. None of that is true. We must stick to the revealed word of God. And a quick note before we jump in, I thought Allie Beth Stuckey did a good job in this debate. Being surrounded by all these folks, that's hard to do. That's hard to do, to debate 20 people like in one sitting, all right? So she did well, but on this issue of slavery, on the topic of slavery, I think that she set herself up for failure with her answers that we're about to see in this clip. Okay, and now before we jump into the debate, I just want to clarify, just so it's just crystal clear, I am not saying that slavery was a positive good for society. I am not saying that we should bring it back. I am very happy that white Christians abolished slavery in the West and basically across the entire world, or most of it. All right, I'm very happy about that. I want to make my thesis very clear for this episode, and it's very simple. The Bible does not teach that the institution of slavery is inherently sinful. Therefore, Christians must not say that the institution of slavery is inherently sinful. That's it. That's my thesis for the episode. And if you're wondering, why even bring this up? Why ruffle the feathers? Why talk about this hot topic? Well, if you don't already know, then the answer to that question should become abundantly clear by the end of the episode. So let's jump into Daily Dose, where I, Joshua Hames, bring you Christian conservative cultural commentary, and we apply the word of God to the world around us. Today, guys, I've got a spicy one. Got a spicy one for you. Prepare, buckle up. Here we go. The institution of slavery is not inherently evil. I know. Some of you guys are upset by that. Some of you guys are saying, I've been saying that for years. Okay, I'll take it a step further. It is not inherently evil to own another human being. I know, just wait. Some of you guys are really upset, but let's talk through this, because it is very important that every Christian affirm what I just said. And not only should they affirm it, every Christian in today's society should be able to defend what I just said.
I'm going to tell every Christian right now, and I'm going to prove it to you, that Christianity was the most abusive group of people or religious faith that exercised the right to have slaves compared to others. I know a lot of you guys talk about, oh, it was so bad. No, like, you know, you bring up the transatlantic slave trade or these other things. Like, nah, bro. This time around, when you guys had a chance to do it, bro, yeah, it got pretty bad. It got pretty bad. And the sad part is that it goes on both ends. It's not just one of you. It's both of you. So don't forget that. The door is slapping both, like, a los dos, güey.
Ocurre un fenómeno. Se descubre América. Los primeros esclavos que van al Nuevo Mundo son blancos. Sí, señor, blancos. Y los primeros negros que van al Nuevo Mundo son esos que tenían ya 50 años o más de presencia renovada y que eran negros ladinos y preparados militarmente para la conquista. En la capitulación de Toledo, que firma Francisco Pizarro en Toledo con la reina Juana, en el 29º, otro sí, pide 50 esclavos, entre los cuales debe haber un tercio de hembras, y se aprobó. Esos eran negros ladinos. Y estos negros ladinos ayudaron a la conquista y recibieron los mismos honores o los mismos castigos cuando los indios vencieron que los españoles. Pero los primeros esclavos fueron blancos, porque la esclavitud no reconocía color hasta esa época. Y la prueba está que en el siglo XIII, cuando Alfonso X el Sabio redacta las 7 partidas, en una de ellas, tomando quizá algo del código justiniano, dice que no es de natura esclavizar a otro hombre. Entonces la esclavitud casi estaba abolida. Revive con el descubrimiento de América y sin noción de lo que iba a hacer esto se mandan blancos. Ahora, no vamos a decir que los blancos llegaron encadenados. Se mandaban a los blancos por castigos, se sacaban de las cárceles, porque estaban en la inopia y iban en una forma de contratos temporales que ellos.
Remember, family, that while I think a lot of us miss the fact that this whole institution, this entity of USA with its European influence, right? The WASP. It's only 200 years, about 250, right? 776, but nothing really flourished until 1812. Keep that in mind. So in before that, there was other powers: British power, French power, Spanish power. But the original ones were Spanish, Portuguese power. And the Spanish were enslaving and could enslave French and British because, they didn't see each other like exactly the same way. Right? Keep in mind. Now, why is that important to know? Why is it important to understand that? Because if you guys recall, this book here that I showed you before, right? This book here, and I would highly suggest, like I read it all, I can say it. I ain't gonna lie, I skimmed through the last maybe 40 pages because I wanted to hurry up. But it was, I kind of knew what was going on. So here we see, and I would say, please get it. It's free. Go to archive.org and hear and know about history. Because these Moors that were in Spain, this also connects with the book that I showed y'all, The Jews and the Muslims of British Columbia. Okay? So this is the Moors in Spain by Stanley Lane Poole. And it's 1888, I believe. All right, so now, it's kind of going through, hold on, let me get to the point. Let me go ahead and do the context and all that, contents, I'm sorry, and all that stuff. All right, so here we see the last of the Goths, okay? It's talking about how the story of the Moors in Spain, it starts with Alexander, how he was over there, yada, 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 okay? All of that stuff. Then around this time here, around this page 3, we're going to start here at the end of page 3, and I want you to pay attention to how, like, what happened then and what's happening now. See, this is why I say to you, especially you that, slavery was good. Okay, really? Okay. Let's read page 3. The Mohammedans, or Saracens, a word which means Eastern, were checked in Asia Minor by the forces of the Greek emperor, and it was not till the 15th century that the key at last obtained the long-coveted possession of Constantinople, right, by the value of the Ottoman Turks. Okay, so it's given us a little history of what's going on. Now, I want you to pay attention to this. It is not likely that all the aid that Spain could have given would have availed against the surging tide of the Saracen invasion. 711 AD. This isn't 700 AD, okay? But as it happened, there was a quarrel at the time between Julian, the governor of Ceuta, and Roderick, the king of Spain, which opened the door to the Arabs. Now, pay attention to what was going on. Now, look, and remember, when I read this to you, kind of look around your situation. Pay attention to like the mess, what we've been hearing. Oh, EBT is going to get, you're going to lose EBT, and people are going to lose SNAP, and and everybody's broke, and everybody's mad at all the fucking wealthy people in America, and yada yada yada. And it's always the wealthy that are like fucking living in luxury, right? Remember? Okay, sounds good. Pay attention. Spain was then under the rule of Visigoths. You know who they are. You Anglos. Or Westgoths, a tribe of barbarians, like the many others who overran the province of the Roman Empire in its decline. The Ostrogoths had occupied Italy, and their kingsmen, the Visigoths, displacing or subduing the Swabi or Swabians and other rude German tribes. So this is like a war amongst themselves, you know what I'm saying? Established themselves in the Roman province of Iberia or Spain in the 5th century after Christ. They found the country in the same condition of effeminate luxury and degeneracy that had proved the ruins of other parts of the empire. Like many warlike peoples, the Romans, when their work was accomplished and the world was at their feet, had rested contentedly from their labors and abandoned themselves to the pleasures that wealth and security permit. They were no longer the brave, stern men who lived simple lives and left the plowshare to wield the sword when Scipio or Caesar summoned them to defend their country or to conquer the continent. Check this. In Spain, the richer classes were given over to luxury and sensuality. They lived only for eating and drinking, gambling, and all kinds of excitement. So this is before the fall of this great kingdom. The mass of the people were either slaves or what was much the same thing, laborers bound to the soil who could not but be detached from the land they cultivated, but passed with it from master to master. Now keep in mind that these guys are so-called Christians, okay? It says, between the rich and the slaves was a middle class of burghers. So keep this in mind, you dumbasses. Every time you're eating a burger, you're making fun of yourself. You know why? Who were perhaps even worse off? For burgers, for on their shoulders, right? Lay all the burden of supporting the state. Oh, shit. Don't they talk about, aren't they arguing about the same thing? Middle class, the middle class, y'all abusing the middle class. You guys are destroying the middle class. You fucking Europeans always have the same, propaganda, same politic. The rich and the poor, they tell the middle income, or like, what is it called? What do you call it? Middle class. They say that to the middle class. Listen, middle class, the reason why you broke is because there's poor people. So you, like a middle class dumbass, believe the rich guy. That's why you hear people like actually defending them. Between the rich and the slaves was a middle class of burghers. So every time you eat a burger, you're basically like, you're insulting yourself, bro. I can't believe they made a plate out of insulting the middle class, bro. Only the crafty council would be this weird. For on their shoulders lay all the burden of supporting the state. They paid the taxes, performed the civil and municipal functions, and supplied the money which the rich squandered upon their luxuries. Isn't this the same situation that's going on right now in America? Once again, you see how people are basically the same family? They don't change. In a society so demoralized, there were no elements of opposition to resolute invader. So here's why we see that in 711 AD, right, the Moors, Arabs, Saracens, North Africans, you know what I'm saying? All of that stuff conquered them. Because the wealthy nobles were too deeply absorbed in their pleasures to be easily aroused by the rumors of an enemy. You see this? Their swords were rusty with being too long laid aside. The slaves, oh, hold on a second. Christianity had slaves? Yes. You guys were enslaving yourselves too. The slaves felt little interest in a change of masters, which could hardly make them more miserable than they already were. Check this out, you burgers. Happy Meals. That's why they give you guys happy. Hey, be happy. Shut the fuck up, you middle class. They've always been boning you, bro. Your own people hate you. And the burgers were discontented with the arrangements of the burdens of the state, by which they had to bear most of the costs while they reaped none of the advantages.
Who are you?
Listen, whatever happened, Ecclesiastes 3:15, whatever happens, what can happen has already happened. God makes the same thing happen again and again. Isn't this the same fucking propaganda that Republicans tell you dumb white folks? And they tell you to blame immigrants or black folks or Asians or Muslims and shit. The rich white ones blame the poor people nowadays. They don't blame the poor whites. But when they get rid of us, if they ever would, they would then blame you. This is just going to happen again. Are you sure you want slavery? Out of such men are these, a strong and resolute army could not be formed. And the gods therefore entered Spain with little trouble. The cities willing to open their gate. Oh, I'm sorry. So basically, the Goths went in this place because the people that were living on these type of lifestyles were basically just living that shitty life. But guess what, fam? If you read further down, it's no different. Watch. Check this out. So if we go into let's see, the advent of the ignorant but devout race like the Goths, might probably arouse a more earnest faith in the new religion. Amid the worn-out paganism of the kingdom, and the Catholic priests were full of hope for the future of their church. The result did not in any way justify the anticipation. The Goths remained devoted indeed, but they regarded their act of religion chiefly as a reparation for their vices. They compounded for exceptionally bad sins, but an added amount of repentance, and then they sinned again without compunction, I guess. Look, I don't want to get too confused on that. Let me keep reading. It says here, the serfs were in even more pitiable state than before. Not only were they tied to the land or master, but they could not marry without his consent. And if slaves of neighboring states intermarried, their children were distributed between the owners of several properties. The middle classes bore, as in the Roman times, the burden of taxation and were consequently bankrupt and ruined. The land was still in the hands of the few. You see this, fam? Roman time. It happened in 7-Eleven time. They're arguing about the same shit again, and the rich get it and blame everybody. Now they got brown people to blame it on. This is crazy. Page 8. Let's see. Let me go here. Page 8. Such was the condition of Spain when the Muslim approached her. See, such was the condition of Spain when the Mussulman approached her borders. A corrupt aristocracy divided the land among themselves. A great estate were tilled by a wretched and hopeless race of serfs. The citizens' classes were ruined. On the other side of the Straits of Gibraltar were the soldiers of Islam. You see this, fam? So for all you so-called white folks that apparently you think slavery is funny, no, it's not, because you've been enslaved for a long time yourself. Now, because people in the elite status propagandize your mind thinking that, oh my God, we are so invincible. Like, what's that called? Darwinism. Darwinism was so important to us because, Darwinism chose us. Well, then if that was the fucking case, how come you guys didn't have no more babies anymore? How come you're not reproducing? How come you're not reproducing? You're dying. I mean, I'm saying you're getting sick. You got cancer. You guys are the ones that are dealing with the fucking horribleness when you get rid of your MSGs. You understand that shit? As a matter of fact, when you even use the MSGs, you guys are still the highest in the levels. I should have brought that report up. But again, we see, like, once again, hopelessness. Are you really sure you want to be enslaved again? White man? White woman? Why do you let these dumb-ass right-wing Christian nationalists speak for you? They have no idea what they're talking about. Y'all been enslaved before. There's nothing new under the sun. Look, here's your little fake story. They made the last of the gods into a legendary savior like King Arthur and believed that he would come again from his resting place in some ocean isles, headed of his wound to lead the Christians once more against the infidels. So here's where you guys just tanked. Right? Now I can get deeper into this, but I think that it makes sense because look, I'll show you. I'll show you. And again, you know, I read history. They don't give a fuck about you guys, bro. Your own people don't care about you. This has been so historical. Like, this has been such a practice in your own society, and you just aren't aware of it.
For years worth of funding available for the SNAP program, our tax dollars that we have already paid to the federal government to facilitate this program, and the Trump administration deleted this language from the website this morning. They are hiding the fact that not only is there more than enough funding to pay these benefits that we have already paid our tax dollars into, but that there was contingency language to ensure that even in the event of a government shutdown, that SNAP would go uninterrupted. The Trump administration and the Republicans supporting him are using food as a political weapon. This is a choice. They chose to delete this language. They are choosing to force children to go hungry.
Just like the book said, yeah, we're doing that shit in Europe. You're no different. There was a video, and I couldn't find it, but I want to share this with y'all. Because, like, the nerve of you. The nerve of you. I'm going to use this brother's video for a second. I'm going to let it play, and then I'm going to, skip what he says, because, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm just going to play the videos here, because I want to show you, like, the nerve of y'all. You really don't know your history. Like, you really don't know where you come from. You really don't know that you were never elitist like how you think you are. Every nation had a chance. Every single one of them. Y'all had a chance too. Both of you came together. So, until you guys can come to the conclusion of reality, then maybe, just maybe we may get somewhere. Let me speed this up. Let's go.
It's for the white boys. That's what's happening right now. I am tired of the white tears. Listen, if you are competent, you are not concerned. When I walk into Congress every single day, you know why I don't feel away and why you can't make me doubt who I am? Is because I know that I had to work 10 times as hard as they did just to get into the seat. When you look and you compare me to Marjorie Taylor Greene or me to Lauren Boebert, there is no comparison. And that is the life that we have always lived. So the only people that are crying are the mediocre white boys that have been beaten out by people that historically have had to work so much harder. This is why they don't want us to have education. This is why they are trying to literally say we won't fund the HBCUs, because they know that if they've already gone after affirmative action and they're...
Well, I'm going to just pause it right there and fast forward it, because that whole HBCU, like, y'all need to stop that shit. Because that case didn't have an all Chinese college and all Mexican college and all Puerto Rican college and all white college. You know what I'm saying? Why the fuck do you guys get away with having an all black college? You can't ask for equality and then expect it to, like, be ignored. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro. Are these motherfuckers evil? Yes. But then again, you got to reflect on the mirror. Because I got some ghosts in your closets too.
out.
The great replacement of white people is far more sinister than any redistricting project. That is at the core of the Democrat project, at the core. And Jasmine Crockett is just some circus act in that entire operation. But it's deathly serious. You shouldn't take what she says seriously. It's just a joke. What she represents is very serious, which is the continued attempt to eliminate the white population in this country.
Weak. Y'all are weak. All of a sudden now, this is to me, man, this is embarrassing right there. And he was a jerk. Charlie Kirk was a jerk, bro. Nobody wants to ever get shot that way in front of their family, man. That shit is sad, but the fact is that it happened, and I don't know if it had anything to do with your complete hate. I think it had something to do with something else. I don't think that the shit that this kid was saying was that severe to have someone like blast him like that. This was more of internal shit, man. Like this, like you got to be very professional to execute some crazy shit like that, and they must really hate you. But what this guy was saying wasn't enough to do that. He's just being like a typical gringo that assumed that since the day that they were created, they always fucking conquered. And the reality is, no, you motherfuckers were slaves not too long ago too. Do you really want slavery again?
You need to get backtracked, and I'm about to do it to you. In 2016.
Competition? I am not afraid of competition. Competition can be good. That being said,
Are you
what's
afraid
great?
to compete?
I think
afraid
actually,
to compete?
hold on. Are you afraid of some other television station beating you? I mean, you're not. Okay,
You know why? No, you know why?
Because you're confident. That's
No,
great.
it's not just confident. Because see, I have skill set. I understand what I do. See, but what you're telling me is this.
Sounds like confidence.
No. What you're telling me is this here. Richard, here's what it sounds like. Listen what it sounds like. I'm not a psychologist.
Can I finish my point?
But you're afraid. You are afraid that you now are going to have to compete. You've had such a head start. You've had an 80-yard head start in a 100-meter dash, and now you're upset that people are catching up.
Sure.
Why are you so afraid?
Sure, everyone likes to win. But to be honest, in terms of Donald, what's great about Donald Trump is that he hasn't been saying, oh, this is great global competition for all Americans, let's do it. No, he's actually said, I care about my people first. I care about people. He's referring to all Americans. When he says, my people first, America first, what he's saying is that he is going to help the people of this country first.
But you don't
he's
want
not going to throw them out to the wind.
But you don't want that. You don't want.
Yes, I do.
So you don't mind blacks and Hispanics and Asians, Native Americans getting jobs, doing well. You don't mind that?
Of course I don't mind that.
Okay, but you're so concerned that oh my God, whites are not getting hired when that's not true.
Clearly whites are getting hired. My claim is that effectively every major institution in this country, from governmental institutions to corporations, are discriminating against whites and white.
When you're majority white,
they literally talk about it. If you believe race doesn't matter and that we're all equal and so on, then the Apple Corporation should be 65% white. It's not.
The reason why it's not 60.
Man, oh man. And again, it goes back to history, bro. If you just read about their history, you can see why they act this way.
Tremendously overrepresented.
Because maybe if Asians are going and studying in those sectors, that's why.
Right, but sure, but I mean, you're just begging the question.
No, I'm not begging the question. What I'm saying is this here: why are more white?
Why are they? Why are they going into sciences and not? I mean, why are Asians succeeding in science, whereas Africans aren't?
I went to Texas A&M. Why are more whites in agriculture?
We have a natural, tendency to do that. I don't know.
No, you don't. First of all, black people actually out there sitting picking cotton.
Black people created agriculture.
No.
Okay, so they're arguing within themselves about who has agricultural fucking knowledge and shit. He's like, you guys don't have no agriculture knowledge, or he asked him, and he's like, well, we're naturally agriculture. No, fuck both of you. Both of you are stupid.
Wait a minute. Who
Give me a fucking break, bro. You're in the Americas. See, this is why I do what I do, fam. It's like you can see right here in the picture very clearly that this democratic political fucking jargon has been created by these two fucking nations predominantly, for the most part. Okay? This soup is for them. So what I'm trying to do is making sure that I remind these, white folks, like, do you really want slavery again? Do you guys really think you're that superior? Do you not know your own, past? You don't have enough people within your, whatever you call yourselves, to really stop that from happening to you again. The white slave trade, the dark history of abducting and exploiting women and children. Yeah, of course you're going to say that. But, I guess exploitation and slavery is happening, or does happen. From the 16th to 19th century, the Barbary corsairs of North Africa conducted raids along the northern Mediterranean coastlines, targeting nations such as Britain, France, Italy, and Sicily. And their relentlessly pursuit of slaves, some pirates even ventured as far as the shores of Iceland, launching raids inland to capture people and transport them back to North Africa. It is estimated that during the period, approximately 1 million white slave Europeans, you want slavery again? Including those seized at the sea and abducted through land raids abroad, were enslaved. Among those captured were numerous Americans who fell victims to these corsairs attacked at the sea. This is the only reason why you even put fucking interest in getting rid of slavery. And all you people that want to support their stupid asses and saying, oh no, it was a white man. Bro, they only cared about them. If you were getting enslaved, they wouldn't give a fuck about you. The white slave trade refers to the organized trade of European women and girls, primarily in Eastern and Southern Europe, into forced prostitution in the Middle East and North Africa during the late 19th and 20th century. In the late 1800s, economic and political instability in Europe led to the increase of poverty and unemployment, particularly among women. Many women saw immigration as their hope for a better life and were willing to take risks to find work abroad. How does that sound like? What does that sound like? Sounds like something our people went through, but you don't give a shit, do you? And then you say slavery was okay. See, this is why you don't educate your kids. If you educated your kids, maybe they may actually have some more sense instead of thinking of fucking white supremacy and shit. Because the term white slavery was real. However, instead of finding work, many of these young women were kidnapped and deceived into believing they would be working as domestic servants or factories. Once again, they arrived in the Middle East, or North Africa, and they were sold to brothel owners and forced into prostitution. The trade in white slaves was highly profitable for traffickers. And remember, keep in mind that also happened here. Black and white folks were enslaving people since 1492, since both of you fuckers got here. And this is not something you can ignore. So as we read further into how this happened to you, white people, maybe you should reflect a little bit more about how you're looking at who you are. You're no eres tan chingón, cabrón. This is how we say it in Spanish. No eres tan chingón, cabrón. You are no different. But hey, put a weapon in front of you and not me. Well, of course you're going to win. Bullets in a rifle give everybody, big balls, bro. Take that shit away from their hands and see how willing they are. Again, white slavery or any kind of slavery seems to happen often. There's a book here called White Cargo: The Forgotten History of Britain's White Slaves in America. A lot of them were taken to, for example, here, chapter 7. In the 1630s, and almost 80,000 people left England for Chesapeake. New England and the Caribbean, most of them indentured servants. A ruthless trade in people developed in which even a small investor could make money. And this was not just white folks getting, like, it wasn't just predominantly white folks and no black. No, man, everybody was getting enslaved. But we didn't have the upper hand when you both got here. Chapter 14 talks about Bacon's rebellion, right? The planters' nightmare of a combined uprising by blacks and whites came true when a charismatic young aristocrat turned an Indian war into a campaign against his own class. The English grandees, starring Never Again, the grandees set out to divide the races. So here we see that it was our people that started this campaign, started fighting against you guys. Some of you guys realized, hey, man, these fuckers don't care about us, man. These elites don't give a shit, right? And here's what the division became. You should read this book. I advise all of you to read this book. Seriously. Y'all been told bullshit lies and you sit here on your fucking throne and act like you're better than other people. Can't do that, man. Just like you so-called black folks owned slaves, you were owned as slaves. And you so-called white folks, just like you owned slaves, you were owned as slaves in our continent. And you still had the upper hand. You passed laws to make sure that Christians were not servants or enslaved at all. Take it over there. Take it over there. You made sure of that. So now I'm gonna present to you a pretty good video, I think. Let's see if I have it here. Let's see. Hold on. Hold on. Where are you at? Is this it? Oh, here it goes right here. So check this out, fam. This is a very good video. It almost sounded like it was what do you call it? Jordan Maxwell, but it's not. So let's listen in now. It's 34 minutes. I may chime in every now and then, but it's important that we listen to this. I know y'all hate the truth, bro, but I can't help you. I know you hate the truth, but I can't help you. I wish more people would listen, but hey, it's all good, man. Maybe you can watch it later.
Okay, let's get to our guest tonight. Our guest tonight is a gentleman by the name of Michael A. Hoffman. He is the author of a recent history book entitled They Were White and They Were Slaves. It's the untold story of the enslavement of white people in early America. Mr. Hoffman was educated at Oswego State Teachers College and Hobart College. He is a former reporter for the Albany and Buffalo, New York bureaus of the Associated Press and a former director of the Institute for Historical Review. He is the author of 3 other books, by the way, and has published also a bi-monthly history newsletter entitled Revisionist Researcher. And Mr. Hoffman, are you with us tonight?
Yes, I am.
Appreciate you being with us tonight. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
Good. Well, you've done magnificent work on a book that, as I don't have to tell you, is not politically correct.
That's right. It isn't at all.
How's it being received out there?
Well, it's being received as sort of a samizdat publication. People are ordering it through bookstores, and there's a growing audience for it. We've sold several thousand copies, and I think that the more publicity that it gets, eventually the audience will grow nationwide and worldwide, God willing.
Well, let's start talking about it. I got some questions to ask you. Now, we've been told that black people have been enslaved and oppressed in America for 400 years, and that the American people need to make reparations to blacks. Perhaps sometimes it suggested cash payments. And as a result, they're saying of this black enslavement, that's the least we can do. Now, you've written a book claiming that it was the white people who were actually the first slaves in America. So who owes who, Mr. Hoffman?
Well, white people don't owe anyone, Pastor Peters. The fact of the matter is that white youth today are taught that black slaves and Mexicans and Chinese built this country, while the vast majority of the whites lorded it over them with a whiplash in one hand, and a mint julep in the other. But the documentary record tells a very different story. Up to one half of all the arrivals in the American colonies were white slaves, and they were America's first slaves. These whites were slaves for life, long before blacks ever were. And this white slavery was even hereditary. White children were born to white slaves, and they were also enslaved. Whites were auctioned on a block with children sold and separated from their parents. Wives were sold and separated from their husbands. Meanwhile, you had free black property owners walking the streets of northern and southern American cities, while white slaves were being worked to death in the sugar mills of Barbados and Jamaica in the West Indies and in the tobacco plantations of Virginia. So the establishment has created this misnomer of indentured servitude to explain away and minimize the fact of white slavery. But if you really read even the establishment historians, if you read their footnotes, even they have to concede, at the very least in the 17th century, that black slavery was almost non-existent and that whites were the overwhelming majority of slaves in America in the 17th century.
Where does the word slave itself come from? Isn't it exclusively in reference to the experience of black people in bondage?
No, it isn't, Pastor Peters. Actually, the word slave derives from the white nation of people known as the Slavs, or the Slavic people. And they were enslaved longer than the entire history of the United States. The Slavic people were slaves about twice as long as blacks were slaves in North America. So the actual definition of that word pertains to the experience of white people in bondage, yet the politically correct historians tell us that we're not allowed to refer to whites as slaves. So it's really a huckster's game that's at work there.
It's that old wordsmith game, isn't it?
That's correct.
How did the enslavement of whites in America begin, anyway?
Well, the enslavement of whites in America really actually has its roots in Great Britain, because it's really a very complex story. Of course, the history of whites in bondage goes all the way back to the ancient world. The ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans, of course, held slaves, and the majority of those slaves were whites. This has pretty much been the essential experience of all people throughout time, and it's ludicrous to say that it's exclusively the experience of blacks. However, if we bring this up to the American colonial period, we must go to Britain because, of course, America was a colony of Britain. And Britain began its decline in the 16th century, shortly after the reign of Henry VIII. It really, I would say, it went into decline under his son, the very weak boy king, Edward VI. And in the era of Edward VI, we see that usury, or the charging of interest on loans, that had been illegal in Britain. And during the reign of Edward VI, he was being manipulated by his counselors, and that's when usury was legalized in Britain in 1548. And from that point onward, you also had the beginnings of the enclosure laws, which was the taking away of the right of the English people to farm freely in these common lands which had existed. They were basically swindled out of their land. And from that, you had a pauperization process beginning. You had the first real beginnings of a class of white people in Great Britain known as paupers. And once you had that, of course, you had all the social evils that came along with the paupers. Now, pauperization began in a large-scale way under Queen Elizabeth I, and this is when you had the first welfare laws in Britain being passed. And when white people who had formerly been yeomen, who had been freemen, now there had been a class of white slaves in early Britain known as the villains, from which we get the disparaging term of villain. It was spelled a little bit differently with an E on the end instead of an A. However, you still had a majority of the whites able to farm and able to live as free men. Now, more and more, the majority of whites were changing over from free men and yeomen and landholders and farmers over to this class, this formal class of paupers. And that's what began the roots of white slavery, because once you had paupers, you had developing the workhouse system, which was the way to manage the paupers, which was to enslave them in an institution where they could be controlled, which was the workhouse system in Great Britain.
That's an amazing story. In fact, it's so amazing that I know there are some people, just using the understanding cognitive dissonance, that they're rejecting some of the things you're saying because it seems so fantastic that they've never heard this. What happened to whites in Great Britain if they opposed the king or they were defeated in battle? You know, in high school today and in colleges, we're told that the whites have been so-called indentured servants. That we do hear about some indentured servants in America, but never slaves. And I know you address it in the book, and I want you to tell the people about it.
Right. Well, first of all, of course, you had battle captives and people who were opposing the king, or if they lost in battle in the various civil wars and rebellions in Great Britain. Generally, one of their punishments, if they were fortunate enough to escape execution, was enslavement. And what would happen to them is they would be transported. Now, that was in a technical term. It didn't just mean that you were put on a ship, but it was actually a term related to forced deportation from Great Britain. And these various white rebels against the crown were then transported to the British Crown colonies of the West Indies, particularly Barbados and Jamaica, where they were basically worked to death in the sugar mills there. And when white tourists go to Jamaica and Barbados, they're basically going to the scene of a white Holocaust, because most of these white men didn't survive beyond the first couple of years there. However, this enslavement was long-term. It just did not involve only political prisoners or those who had lost battles, but it also involved the kidnapping, as I will discuss later, of whites off the streets of Great Britain, so that even in the early parts of the 20th century, you had a remnant of poor whites in Barbados known as the Redshanks, who were the survivors of white slavery there. So it was a very onerous thing to be captured in battle, and you were, in fact, subject to slavery as a result.
The Redshanks, would that in any way tie up with the word rednecks?
Absolutely, yes.
Is that right?
Yes, this is one of the racist terms which the media freely uses. We're often told that the most horrible word, I think this specter was summoned in the O.J. Simpson circus, that the most horrible word in the English language, one of his lawyers said, was the N-word. However, to conscious white people, one of the most horrible words is the word redneck. And this term of derision is bandied about in movies and television and in the newspapers totally blithely. We're just supposed to take this. We're supposed to be labeled in this way. However, if we look at the etymology of the word, the root of it is a means of poking fun at poor white people whose skin would redden in the sun in the West Indies, and they would be called hillbillies, Scotland Johnnies, by blacks and by wealthy whites who enslaved them, Redshanks, and eventually this term of derision, this loathsome, contemptible term for poor white people, eventually evolved into the modern-day term of redneck, yes.
That's fascinating. How were the slaves actually enslaved? How were the whites enslaved if they were not just indentured servants?
Well, the indentured servant thing was basically a racket. I mean, there was a minority of people who were in bondage who were fortunate enough to have been indentured servants, because after all, indentured servitude, when it is practiced correctly and legally, is a form of apprenticeship. Someone, as we were told in high school and college, would trade a period of his labor in return for passage over on a boat or in return for instruction in a skilled trade. So that is a legitimate a contract there between a laborer and an employer, and I certainly sanction it, and I think it's a good thing. In fact, I'd like to see apprenticeship practiced more today as more and more young people get away from the public school systems and they're homeschooled by their parents, and then as they reach their teens, why, it would be quite natural for them to apprentice themselves to a manager or someone who had something to teach them. However, under this euphemism of indentured servitude, Pastor Peters, a tremendous hoax and a tremendous swindle was perpetrated against the poor white people. And that is to say, it functioned in two ways. One, as a cover-up for the actual experience of white people in slavery. In other words, as this slavery grew larger and larger, and the white aristocracy in Britain scrambled for a way to cover it up, they grouped it under the notion of a contract for indenture. Secondly, it functioned as a way of entrapping people. In other words, people would be press-ganged or kidnapped aboard ships, and a spurious indenture would be written out for them, allegedly corresponding to the biblical injunction that no servitude is to go beyond a period of 7 years, and this is where we get the notion of a 7-year limit. In fact, that limit was completely ignored, and these people were referred to as indentured servants. They were even told that they had a contract of indenture, but in fact they were slaves for life. Now, the way this occurred, the real engine of this enslavement in Britain was kidnapping. And again, if we go to our study of words, we find out that the origin of the word kidnapping, which is now a universal term for anyone who steals people, relates to white slavery. If you go to the old dictionaries, you'll find out that the original word was kidnabbing, N-A-B-B-I-N-G, and it's a specific reference to stealing white children and white adults for servitude in colonial America. And tens of thousands of them were kidnapped from the port cities of England and Scotland. In fact, it got so bad in the late 17th century that parents were in great fear to let their children go to the port cities on an errand without their parents or some other adult guardian safeguarding them. And in fact, even if an adult was along, oftentimes that adult would be knocked on the head and put on board the ship. And in my book, They Were White and They Were Slaves, I give many accounts of this mass kidnapping in action. So that was the principal means by which whites were brought to America as slaves. A secondary means was to trick them into the idea that they were going to have a limited contract of indenture for 7 years. But then when they came to America, you see, there was a way to lengthen that 7 years and to violate the biblical injunction against servitude going beyond 7 years. The way that happened was to create a roster of petty offenses. For example, if a white slave was away from his work or away from the plantation for more than a day, or even for more than an hour, if the overseer decided that this was an arbitrary absence, they would add on a month of servitude to the white slave's time of service. And through various stratagems and tricks, this adding on went to the point where the people ended up being enslaved for life. And that's the real reality of bondage of whites in America. It's white slavery and not largely indentured servitude.
It's an amazing story, and ladies and gentlemen, this amazing story is told in Mr. Hoffman's book, They Were White and They Were Slaves, The Untold History of the Enslavement of Whites in Early America. Truth of the matter is, whites were the first slaves in America, not blacks, and that the media is not telling you. We're carrying this book, and of course I'm offering it on this shortwave broadcast. And if you would like to have this book, They Were White and They Were Slaves, it's available for a
$16 offering postpaid.
Write to Scriptures for America, P.O. Box 766, LaPorte, Colorado, 80535. That's Scriptures for America, P.O. Box 766, LaPorte, Colorado, 80535. Mr. Hoffman, are you a Christian?
Yes, I am.
Let's go back to the book. Were there white children who were made slaves? How about white women also?
Yes, very definitely. If you were born to a white woman, then you also became the property of the owner. Now, for a white woman was basically banned. A white slave woman could not be married, and of course the slave masters realized that these women were going to exercise this function of nature, that it would be unnatural for them to suppress their procreative urge. And there were secret marriages, of course, by the score between white slave males and white slave females, but this played right into the hands of their owners, because then more time was added on to their allegedly limited service by the fact that she had these children out of wedlock. Then the children became the property of the master. Now, it depended on which era of colonial law this occurred in. The law became more liberal in the 18th century. In the early 18th century, a child born to a white woman who was enslaved would be the slave of the master if it was a female till she was 18, if it was a male until he was 21. However, in the 17th century, when things were much rougher, their enslavement could go as long as until the age of 31. So this was really dependent on the local situation in the various states. It dates back to an old Roman slave code which decreed partus sequitur ventrum. The condition of the child follows the condition of the mother. So you see, this was really a slave law, which we've seen all these heart-rendering.
This is what I wanted to interject because, you know, again, man, you fucking bastards, bro. This is what I can't trust neither one of you. Shut the fuck up, man. Partus sequitur ventrum was predominantly targeted towards our women, our people. And you can look this up, not by somebody saying it, not by, because, you know, again, you have to understand to what extent these people are going to say what they're going to say. I'm not here to defend you bastards. You want slavery again, bro? Listen, you will be probably the first ones to fall under that. But for you to assume that that partus sequitur ventrum applied to you, I'm about to show you something right now. How come I didn't download it? What the hell, bro? What's going on, bro? I thought I uploaded the book. Oh, that's right. I know why I didn't upload it, because I have it already. Check this out, fam. This is why sometimes, bro, I just want to mac you guys too. Both of you guys are fucking liars. You always want to take the credit of other people and shit. Always want to take the credit of other people's sufferings. I'm not going to let you do that this time. Let me get to the page. Page 60, I believe, 63. Let's see, hold on. My bad. I think I went too far. Excuse me. 63, bro. Okay. Okay, we're close. So let's read this right here. Let's see what they say. This is from Judicial Cases. Here, I'll read it so I don't lose it. The judicial cases. Hold on, hurry up, dude. Judicial cases concerning American slavery and the Negro, Volume 1, 1926. Really? You're going to do that? Okay. It says here, page 63, however, the colonists did not depend on traffic or kidnapping for their supply of Indian slaves, but took the enemy pagan by their own progress in war and enslaved him long before the passage of the Virginia Act of 1676 and 1679. When forces were being raised in Maryland, by the way, black and white folks were owning slaves at this time, and we got records of it. It says here, when forces were being raised in Maryland in 1652 for a march against the Eastern Shore Indians, such Indian prisoners shall happen to be taken, right? Such Indian prisoners as shall happen to be taken are declared the spoils of those who finance the expedition. Indians were also reduced to slavery in punishment for crimes. Thus, we have shown that the first slaves in the colony of Virginia were Indians, not Negroes. They're fucking white. And that the laws of the colony sanctioned Indian slavery, except as regards to prospective importations by land, for a few years after the passage of the Act of 1670. The practice of colonists in accordance to their laws is illustrated by the cases in the court of Virginia and Maryland from 1627 to 1831. In 1627, some Indians of the Carib Islands were brought into the country, Virginia, by Captain Sampson. But the experiment was too disastrous to warrant repetitions, at least on the wholesale scale. Okay? You see what's going on? Besides the traffic in Indian slaves between Virginia and Maryland colonists mentioned above, the Maryland court records contain other instances of Indian slavery. Now, white people complains that Captain Edward Hill had not delivered to him the Indian boys whom he had covenanted to deliver. Now, check this out. In Maryland, in 1656, there belonged to a household of one overseer, a Negro, a white woman servant, and an Indian slave. Isaiah chapter. See that? You see that category? It's like when you watch the Django and shit, and you got the overseer Negro. You know, like the guy, the old man, he oversees a house. The white women servant and shit. You know what I'm saying? But who the fuck is the Indian? In 1661, one citizen of Maryland demands an Indian. Now check this out. Fuck you, your participiatory intervention applied to crackers. Get the fuck out of here. Don't ever lie about that shit. I will show you where you've been, but don't take our history, bastards. In the later history of Indian slavery in Virginia, it is the female Indian slave who is prominent as the ancestors of slaves. Fuck you then, bastards. Petitioning for freedom, for if she had been enslaved unlawfully, her descendants in the female line were free, in accordance with the axiom of the civil law, partis equiter venturum, which was generally accepted in Maryland for a few years. Now, if you read through this book, you'll find out that that law was only begotten because of our people. I do feel compelled to share this part of the video because, again, we have to show facts. But, you know, just like Canaan, Edom like to lie, bro.
Hollywood movies and on Ted Turner's TNT channel and so forth. But what they never tell us is this was first the experience of white people in bondage and only later the experience of some black people in bondage. So yes, white families suffered tremendously under white slavery in colonial America, you bet.
You're not saying that there weren't black families later on that also suffered, are you?
No, of course not. I regard the enslavement of blacks as a terrible tragedy for black people, but a worse tragedy for whites, primarily because this country, the Civil War, I think, was partly fought because there were white men in the North who abhorred the idea of using Negro labor to build the country. Congressman David Wilmot was a great Northern congressman who sponsored the Wilmot Proviso, and that said that white men should be the ones who settle the West, because the issue of the South being kind of the white nationalists on the side of the white people, and the Northerners all being race mixers on the side of the blacks, is really not an accurate dichotomy there. It was far more complex than that, and one of the issues was whether or not the Southern holders of black slaves were going to be allowed to import thousands of blacks into California and Oregon. And a lot of white working men didn't want this to happen, including Congressman David Wilmot. And so basically their attitude towards black enslavement was that it was a curse on America because white men wanted to be separatists. They wanted a separate nation, an all-white nation, and they wanted to do the toil. Now, in fact, they had done the toil because the founding toil of this nation, the great land clearing and swamp clearing, the felling of the trees, was largely done by white pioneers. So that work had been done, but as the financial oligarchy...
Keep in mind that as they're talking this way, family, they're just kind of talking all over you, bro. As they're talking, you're on the ground. As they're talking, you're bleeding. As they're talking, your mom, sisters, uncles, brothers, sisters are dying of all kinds of diseases. Because smallpox, syphilis, all of that shit was brought from Africa and Europe together. Both of them held dependent to fucking conquer these lands. And both of them are trying to ignore the true history. So it's going to take us to remind them.
In the South, continued to depend on black enslavement. This really troubled the white yeomanry of the United States. So it was a tragedy for both, but I think especially a tragedy for white people. And of course, the most far-sighted of American statesmen founded in 1830 the American Colonization Society for the deportation of blacks back to Africa. And many black people supported this. And in fact, as you know, Pastor Peters, many black people continue to support that to this day.
Yes, in fact, I had a black speaker at one of my past Christian family Bible camps, Mr. Brock. I don't know if you've heard of him or not.
Yes, I have.
And he's certainly an advocate of it.
Right.
So what you're saying then, Michael, is that virtually every component of what we've come to know as black slavery was first experienced by whites when they were enslaved here in America.
Absolutely. That's
No fuck faces. It was first our people that were demolished, killed, fucking mutilated, raped, abused, right? And then enslaved. You guys were just thieves, robbers, pedophiles, piece of shits, losers, didn't take care of your family, couldn't understand shit. So, you know, you were troublesome, you were problematic, and they just wanted to get rid of you in Europe. That's what you guys were originally. 1609, the year of starvation. That's why we know that you guys had no concept of like civility. Why do you think your crops are dying? If you would have known better, you wouldn't be running into this problem.
That's absolutely correct. From the fugitive slave law, where whites had a price on their head and were hunted and nearly whipped to death, and in some cases the whippings were actually fatal, to the auctioning of white slaves. As soon as they came off ships, they were taken like cattle, and their arms were felt.
Your own people were enslaving you. So the white man was enslaving the white man, and the black man was enslaving the black man. The white man was enslaving the black man, and the black man was enslaving the white man. Both of you are fucking hypocrites.
And their teeth were examined and so forth. And this has been tremendously suppressed. And people can say, well, you know, if this actually happened, why haven't I heard about it? Well, for those of us who are a little bit sophisticated about history, we know that history is rigged and that many historians owe their jobs to how well they play with the party line. But there's also another aspect at work here, and that is the fact that in the late 18th century and throughout the 19th century and even in the early 20th century, because this bondage extends right up into the 20th century, white people were very ashamed if they had a background of servitude.
There you go, right there. White people are very ashamed if they have a history of servitude.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
Fuck your feelings.
Century and throughout the 19th century and even in the early 20th century, because this bondage extends right up into the 20th century, white people were very ashamed if they had a background of servitude. Many of those whites ended up settling in Appalachia. They became very alienated from the mainstream of the United
States. Right there. That's not you guys, white people. That's not you guys. That's a native sister right there, you piece of shit. But you know what? What to expect from weak ass people?
United States, and they were ashamed of their background. There was no one to come along and champion their cause here. They saw it as a kind of a stigma. Secondly, the aristocracy that had perpetrated this Holocaust against their own kin.
Aristocracy that perpetrated the Holocaust against their own kin. Do you see what I'm saying, family? That's why when I was bringing out books regarding Africans, enslaving Africans and shit, and you guys like, oh, he's a hater. You don't believe in the truth. Get the fuck out of here. Here we see whites enslaving whites. Nobody cares, huh? Well, Mr. White Man and Mrs. White Man, Mrs. White Woman, sorry, you should care. Because your elitists are considering you as collateral damage. You don't mean shit to them. If we weren't around, you would be the fucking immigrant, you stupid ass. You should read the history about actually what things occurred in Europe, and you'll find out how Christianity was just fucking horrible to your own kind. Here we hear it again. They don't care about you. They just care about the money.
And they were ashamed of their background. There was no one to come along and champion their cause here. They saw it as a kind of a stigma. Secondly, the aristocracy that had perpetrated this Holocaust against their own kin realized that they committed a great crime, both in the eyes of sacred scripture and in the eyes of common law. And so it was in their interest to cover this up as much as possible.
That's why they started arguing about, oh, maybe we should abolish slavery. Shit. Ya los conozco, moscos. Ya los conozco, moscos.
So it's mostly fallen to me to be the one to dig this back up again and bring it to the attention of all people, black and white, so that we can deal with it and so that other researchers and historians can further explore it, because it's...
Oh, I'm glad you said that, so then you guys can deal with it. Because this is why Democratic and Republicans will never come to understanding. Both of you are hypocrites. Both of you can't admit the truth. Both of you are liars. And both of you are scared and are weak. Because you have a closet. And there's a lot of shit in there that you don't want people to know.
It's a pioneering field, and there's a lot of room here for further discussion and investigation.
Where did you start going to find this material? Of course, you've got an excellent bibliography in the back, so I shouldn't ask you that, but why don't you tell the people?
Well, I live here in upstate New York, and believe it or not, New York is not entirely comprised of Manhattan. In fact, we have tried to break off the state. We've tried to make Manhattan the 51st state and make upstate New York, which is largely...
Rich white people don't give a fuck about poor white people, bro. It's very clear. Just like rich black people don't give a fuck about poor black people. That's very clear. And you guys brought that shit to our nation, our continent, our land. We used to take care of our elderly. We cared about our elders. We respect our elders. Even to this day, we take care of our moms and dads when they're ready to go. We don't send them to asylums and shit like you guys both do. You know I'm not lying either.
Rural and farms, its own republic. So I'm in a very rural area, and the history here is very rich. Revolutionary War battles were fought, especially the Indian Wars of the American Revolution, with Generals Clinton and Sullivan fighting the Iroquois. And also, I'm quite near to New England. In fact, when I originally became interested in this story, it was by researching Matthew Lyon, who is one of the American Revolutionary War heroes. He was a hero of the Battle of Bennington, Vermont. The famous commander of that, of course, was Ethan Allen. But as I began to dig into Matthew Lyon's story, I discovered that Matthew Lyon was a white slave. He became a very great American politician and a congressman, and in fact, he was imprisoned in a famous sedition case after the Americans won their freedom. He was imprisoned by the Federalists, but he became a great and accomplished man. He wrote a book, and he referred himself to himself as "by the bulls that redeemed me." Apparently, Matthew Lyon had been sold in return for a couple of deer, a couple of male deer. And, I mean, that was the status of white people in the 18th century in America. And so I couldn't find his grave. And
now that you're getting an idea of what's been going on for centuries here in the Americas, in North America predominantly, right? How they've been hiding history from you. Why do you think there's a big talk about the Reconstruction Act of 1865 or 1868? Why do you think there's this thing called antebellum? Why do you think there was this law against miscegenation? Do you understand now? Do you understand how society started changing and the white man wanted to favor their skin? And when they got control of power, everyone else followed. But they all wanted to be white. Because there was a time, and kind of like not too long ago, people wanted to be black. You see how society comes back and forth and still with that mindset? I'm glad I'm offending you. Maybe you'll finally realize that you're not that special. Biatch.
Later on, I found out that he wasn't buried in New England at all, but he went down much later in his career after his wife died to the Kentucky-Tennessee area where he made a name for himself in business. I did locate the grave of his wife, but as I discovered this, I was quite shocked that here was a great Revolutionary War hero whose life as a young man, he was an immigrant from Ireland, was worth no more than two male stags. And from there I began digging into diaries and documents and early colonial laws and piecing this together. And I also found that historians in their published works have parts of the story, but they're basically too pusillanimous to refer to it for what it is. There's a real problem among historians. They refuse to refer to whites as slaves. It's almost a phobia on their part. You can trace a great deal of their research leading inevitably, pointing in the direction of the fact that white.
Because the moment you white people embrace the fact that you've been enslaved, it gets rid of your Darwinism and inferiority complex. Because you're starting to fall again. You see what I'm saying? The moment you realize that you've been enslaved once and you start seeing the decimation of your nation, drug addiction, abortion, like fucking loser mentality. You guys are either depressed, lonely, confused, pedo, trans. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like a bunch of weird shit, right? So you represent, science even says that whenever people get psycho, like at 40 and shit, it's always a white man. Like your weakness and maybe your strength is your mind. And it's funny, and that's why I think you don't accept that. You don't have that inner strength to say, yeah, we were there. So fucking what? It is like fear. I don't. Maybe it's kryptonite. I don't know. Who fucking knows? I don't know. But you know what? I don't care, because you're going to find out, and you're going to feel it. And like I said to Canaan, I'm here to rip your spirit apart. I'm also here to rip the spirit of Edom apart. In case you didn't notice it. I'm coming after you, Edom. Esau, your days are numbered, friend. And I'll call you friend right now. You know why? Because I don't really enjoy the suffering of people, but you are going to go through it.
Were slaves, but for reasons of political correctness, they can't bring themselves to use that word. So the footsteps and the tracks of this great mystery can be ferreted out in a number of areas, both in terms of original research, diaries, and letters, as well as in published history.
During the Civil War, let me ask you this, or the war between the states as they call it, the northern abolitionists accused the southern whites of being heartless. But the Confederates, they would counter by claiming that the northern whites held white people in virtual slavery in the factories in the north. What can you tell my audience about the enslavement of white factory workers in America, and in Britain for that matter?
Yes, well, Pastor Peters, that's another suppressed story. It was one of the really great challenges of
Pastor Peter, if there's white slavery in Britain, that has nothing to do with us. And Pastor Peter, then we didn't get to enslave you fucking white people. Or did we? Payback's a bitch, huh?
The Southerners against the North, and has gone largely unanswered. The factory system, once again, began in Great Britain during the Industrial Revolution, and it itself was a form of enslavement. Now, we might feel to say, well, the popular image of slavery is on a plantation, and we may be willing to grant the idea that whites were enslaved on tobacco plantations, but how can you say whites were enslaved in a factory? Well, it's very easy, because the documentary record shows that they were locked into the factory. The doors were locked. These were largely, by the way, children who were workers in the factories that did the very toughest.
By the way, please do not feel bad for that shit. Don't feel bad for that, because that's a historical thing. Like, for example, we get into history about certain things that certain nations do, right? Like, we read some books on, like, let's say, for example, Africa. And you guys are all so happy, not my gente, but, you know, white folks show up and shit, and they'll make comments about, yeah, that's what black people did. Yeah. But, you know, we also show some shit about white folks. And white people, they are very comfortable with renting their children out. They're very comfortable with that. Matter of fact, that shit happened a lot in Germany, right before, you know, Nazism and all that shit occurred. Yo, you Germans were so broke that you would rent out your kids and shit to the neighbor's house. Matter of fact, you know, and you would rent them out and you just didn't know, and then they would start renting out themselves to, like, prostitution and shit. Look this history up. This is what actually activated, you know, that Nazi mentality, man, because there was a lot of that shit going on. It was Bolshevism or some shit like that. Look it up, man. 1918. Bolshevism. Well, no, not Bolshevism. 1918. What is it called? Okay, the golden era of 1920 in Germany. Look that shit up, and you're gonna find out that this right here, like, don't be impressed by it. Like, oh, they're kids. No, you people have that in your nature. That's why when your kids turn 18, you get rid of them. You don't want them in your house. You call them adults at that point. And you're like, you're not my responsibility anymore. So don't fucking sit here and say that I'm lying. Man, I'm going to try to remember when I brought that information out. Let's go.
Of the work, both in the northern United States as well as in industrial Britain. They worked under the absolutely most horrendous conditions.
What age of children are we talking about?
We're talking from an age, depending on the machinery and the type of work, we're talking from as young as 5 years old on up to 14 or 15. So you had that situation where these northern abolitionists, many of them were factory owners. As we know, Frederick Engels was a factory owner, but he claimed to have a tremendous interest in the welfare of poor whites. This seems to be a functional act of hypocrisy on the part of the socialists. William Morris, the arts and crafts socialist in Great Britain, was a strong proponent of this egalitarian society and wanted to use a central government in order to inflict this socialism. Yet if you look at his actual personal life, you discover that he made a fortune off white child labor in the Devon Consols copper mine in Great Britain. So this hypocrisy certainly functioned among the northern abolitionists in the great mill towns.
Hey, family, it was called this right here. The Weimar's Golden Era, okay? Like, I wish I had that video. I might have shared it in one of my other classes. I think it's this one. No. Actually, the one I showed you was kind of not justifying Nazism, but she was like, that's why Nazis were, growing, because you would see like children, like seriously, children in child prostitution of 1920. I think it's when that talks about that, man. It's fucking crazy, family. Was a party lover's paradise, like meaning like you could have any kind of sexual debauchery interest in shit, and all you had to do was just go to Germany. And the way that I think it's this one.
The war, the German government had moved.
No. The one I listened to was a young lady, and she was talking about how they even had names for how to order children and shit. Like there was homosexuality, lesbianism, all of that stuff. That's none of my business. Obviously, you guys live your life. That's your way. But there's one thing that you could do in pedophilia. Pedophilia was a big deal in this time, and it was legal. Pedophilia was legal with Germany at that time. Like the sins of Weimar Republic. I think it's this one. Let me see.
Parties.
That's it. This is it. She's talking about here, all these other things, right? And then it get like they even did like Baal scenes, bro. Like this is crazy, right? And then they get into like the children. Like this was real. Look, those were children. Children would meet up there, right? Like there was Babylon Berlin, they called it. This is the debauchery of type of people that eventually you destroy yourselves. We don't have to do nothing. All we got to do is just kind of sit back and let you do your shit. That's why when Nazi came into power, they wanted to clean that shit up. Yeah, it looked bad. But you know what? Even within Nazism, you guys were still pedophiles. Because who was doing these acts before they put their hand down? Look, listen, I'll give you guys the link. It's an interesting topic. It kind of gives you an idea of why you hear like white supremacy nowadays and they're over here blaming gay people and shit. Well, the same thing happened then. A lot of that shit. Oh, here, that right there. Check it out.
Traveled to Berlin and indulged in the city's many vices. The American architect Philip Johnson admitted to using male prostitutes and praised the openness of Berlin during the Weimar years. He and his ugly rectangular modern architecture would go on to head MoMA. Johnson also supported Hitler and right-wing nationalist politics worldwide, including Huey Long, recognizing the need for change after seeing boys selling their bodies. Need for change after seeing boys selling their bodies on the streets of Berlin.
On the streets of Berlin. Just so you know, you need to learn your history. Remember that video I showed you guys? Remember that video I showed you guys about the brother that was talking about MESHIACHA? I found it. This is it. I'm going to finish the class with this video. It's 10 minutes long. He says a lot of different things. Again, Take it for what it's worth, but I think it's important that he says that. He says, we're all Mexicas. Pay attention, family. I love y'all very much for you guys stick around and listen. I don't hate you haters, man. I just wish you would actually step up and say what you got to say instead of like hating the channel. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong so then others can believe what you got to say. But I don't think people come to my channel to prove me wrong. I think for the most part, people don't come to this channel because they know they can't. Have a good night.
Mi gente bonita de habla hispana, ¿qué es lo que quieres saber de los mexicanos? Nada más te pregunto. Dime qué es lo que quieres saber de los mexicanos y yo te lo voy a decir. Pero si tú no me dices qué es lo que quieres saber de los mexicanos, yo te lo voy a decir de todas maneras, porque lo que te voy a decir de los mexicanos, nadie en el planeta Tierra te lo puede decir. Así es de que para bien los oídos, porque lo que vas a escuchar el día de hoy, domingo, te va a poner los pelos de punta. Ahí te va. Los mexicanos somos una raza. Somos raza mexica. Te guste o no, los centroamericanos son de raza mexica. Te guste o no, los suramericanos son de raza mexica. Te guste o no, los indios nativos del norte, que le llaman así, son de raza mexica. Grábatelo bien. No somos chicanos. Ser chicano significa que eres un puerco. Te guste o no, esa es la verdad. Porque hubo una guerra, que en esa guerra los ingleses querían sacar a los mexicas de acá del norte y les decían, chicano, go to your chiquero, ¿sí? Bueno, ahí te va más, para que te grabes bien. Nosotros no somos pochos. Si tú aceptas ser pochos...
Hermanos, listen to this real quick. Listen to what he says right here. This I know this here. I know this because I'm from...
Les decían, chicano, go to your chiquero, ¿sí?
Tu chiquero, the chiquero means the pigs' babies. El chiquero de los puercos, güey. So, cochino. Dig that information up. Dig it up because I do have a map that shows Chicana. That says the name. Let's go.
Bueno, ahí te va más. Para que te grabes bien. Nosotros no somos pochos. Si tú aceptas ser pocho, significa que eres un pedazo de carne enferma y podrida. Ese es el contenido en el diccionario viejo de la palabra pocho. Ahí te va más de la raza mexica. Los mexicanos. Los mexicanos no somos hispanos, somos de habla hispana. Pero los mexicanos somos de raza mexica. Grábatelo bien. Eso no es todo. Ahí te va más, te guste o no, los mexicanos, centroamericanos, suramericanos, indios norteamericanos, no son latinos. Grábatelo bien. No somos latinos. Los únicos latinos del mundo son de Roma. Nadie más es latino. Grábatelo bien. Porque los mexicanos o raza mexica no somos latinos, porque los únicos latinos, lo voy a repetir, son de Roma. Nadie más es latino. Y si tú dices que eres latino, pues lárgate para Roma. Así de fácil. Ahí te va más de los mexicanos o raza mexica. Hace 500 y fracción de años para atrás, éramos nombrados o autodominados como raza mexica. Pero ya saben la invasión que hubo, no conquista. Porque una conquista se trata con amor, una invasión se trata con el crimen. Por lo tanto, fue una invasión. Bueno, pues ahí te va más de la raza mexica. No mires a los centroamericanos como diferentes. Somos hermanos, te guste o no. No mires a los suramericanos diferentes, porque somos hermanos, te guste o no. Es la verdad. Somos hermanos. No pelees con los norteamericanos nativos, centroamericanos nativos, suramericanos nativos. No peleen entre sí. No peleen entre ustedes. No sean estúpidos. El enemigo es totalmente diferente el que tienen frente a sus narices. Así es de que peleen las orejas, cabrones. Los mexicanos tampoco somos americanos. Acuérdense, este no es el continente de América. De 500 años para acá, sí, pero de 500 años para atrás era el continente mexica. Grábatelo bien. Este no es el continente americano, acuérdate. El mendigo trompudo ya le quiere cambiar el Golfo de América. Siempre ha sido de América desde hace 500 años para acá, pero quiere autodominarlo como si fuera solamente del norte de América, o el norte de América fuera solamente el único América. Pero no es así, porque los mexicanos, su verdadero continente es el continente mexica. Es la pura verdad. Y si tú crees que tú eres americano, grábate esto que te voy a decir. Los mexicanos no son americanos tampoco. Porque quien llamó a este continente América fue un cabrón romano. Américo Vespucio. Era un italiano. Él fue el que le cambió el nombre de América. Antes era el continente mexica, pero se le cambió al continente de América. Por lo tanto, si tú dices que eres americano, lárgate para Roma. De allá son los únicos americanos. De Roma son los únicos americanos. De Roma son los únicos latinos. De Roma el idioma español es latín. Entonces le pertenece a Roma también. El portugués es latín de Brasil. Lárguense a Roma. El inglés tiene latín. El francés tiene latín. Así es de que French Guiana, lárguense a Roma. Todos hablan un idioma de Roma. Todos hablan un idioma que lleva latín. Por lo tanto, nosotros de raza mexica, de norte a sur del continente mexica, somos mexicas, raza mexica. No porque tú veas a un filipino y a un tailandés y a un camboyano y a un vietnamita y a un chino y a un japonés y a un tailandés, no creas que cada uno es una raza. Todos son raza asiática. Así como los europeos de Alemania, de Francia, de Portugal, de Checoslovaquia, de Italia, de España, de donde quiera, son raza anglosajona, raza Caucasian, ¿me entiendes? Por lo tanto, de norte a sur, en los Américas, que yo todavía le llamo el continente mexica, somos hermanos, somos raza mexica. Y si no quieres ser raza mexica, raza maya. Y si no quieres ser raza maya, raza azteca o inca. Pero somos una raza del continente mexica. Cuando los que dijeron venir a conquistar, que vinieron a matar, dijeron, encontramos el continente mexica. No lo encontraron, ya sabían de este continente. Lo que pasa es que eso es lo que te educan en la historia. Y no me vengas a querer decir con tus comentarios tan brutos y torpes si estudiaste en la academia, porque lo que digas de academia es totalmente una mentira. Grábenselo bien, mi raza mexica. Somos raza mexica. No peleen entre sí con centroamericanos, con suramericanos, con nativos de acá del norte. No peleen entre sí. Su enemigo es totalmente diferente. Dense la mano el uno al otro, compartan conocimiento el uno al otro, hagan lo que tengan que hacer, unifíquense pero no peleen entre sí, no se maten entre sí, y tendrán muy pronto mucho más éxito. Esta es la pura verdad, grábatelo bien, raza mexica. De no ser así, y tú dices soy indígena, entonces es como un chango, una rata por ahí, un conejo. Eso no es una raza. Indígenas de aquí, indígenas de allá, indígenas de todas partes. Entonces todos los demás, ¿de dónde son indígenas? Los güeros, ¿qué indígenas son? Los africanos, ¿qué indígenas son? Los austriacos, ¿qué indígenas son? Los asiáticos, ¿qué indígenas son? ¿Me entiendes? Esa palabra es denigrante. No somos indígenas, somos una raza, raza mexica. ¿Te guste o no? Esa es la pura verdad, cabrón. Abre los ojos, pela los ojos y escucha la verdad. El Amish mexicano te dice aquí la pura verdad. ¿Te guste o no? Esa es la verdad. Esa es la verdad. Raza mexica. Raza mexica. Puros huevos.
Okay, fam. I think we gotta go. Appreciate you for being here. I hope it was edifying. I wish I could go a little longer, but I gotta take care of something right now. So, dispensing. But I do got some pretty decent songs for y'all here at the end. I hope the brother doesn't get upset. I don't think he will. You know what I mean? I'm trying to promote, there's like, I don't know if it's him or it's Homeboy Songs, but you know what I mean? As long as it's Raza, I'll promote it on my channel too. I don't need to get paid. You guys have a good night. Thank you for being here. Saludos. Buenas noches. Shalom.
Yo soy la voz del maíz, el eco de los abuelos aún por venir. I snatched the mic from conquistadors' descendants, resurrect ancestors in every sentence. You built your cathedrals on our bones and our essence, but I'm the vengeance encoded in every lesson. I'm obsidian tongue, now Ruel in the rhythm. My syllables sliced like Quetzal plumes in prism. I'm the algorithm of forgotten prisms, the DNA of kingdoms pre-Christian. You call me illegal alien, I call that fiction. A label invented after linguistic crucifixion. They baptized our vision, erased tradition, but I'm the codex risen. Glyphs and transmissions, apotech, mathematics, mixed deck, manuscripts, tricky linguistics encrypted in hieroglyph scripts. I spit solar flares, old mech in the syntax, before your prophets ever dreamed of sin acts. I'm the son of maize, not the son of Spain. Blood of volcanoes pulsing through my veins. Colonial trauma encoded in my brain, but I broke those chains. Jaguar untamed, they say mestizo, like it's a downgrade, but I'm the upgrade. 2,000 years unafraid. Before Adam, before Rome, before crusades, we had calendars calculating cosmic waves. You burn our codices cold as pagans, but our science was quantum equations. We mapped Orion with obsidian tools. You map crusades with blood and fools. I'm now with what tongue in custom with Sarika prayer. Maya timekeeper, celestial layer. Chicanos not slang, it's reclamation of decolonized nation within a nation. From Alaska to Andes, I see reflections. Cherokee, Maya, Mapuche connections. I'm the fusion of feathers and fire direction. The smoke of incense, rebellion's complexion. They call me Latino, nah, that's oppression. They call me Hispanic, that's possession. You can't colonize what's eternal. I'm internal, infernal, ancestral journal. The Taino's conch still echoes through wind. The Keek still chant what's never been dimmed. The Aymara still guard the sacred rim. We are not myths, we are oxygen. I'm the voice of the Pueblos you forgot to name. The prophecy fulfilled in the hip-hop flame. This is not rap, his blood memory on tape. An Aztec priest with the mic instead of a blade. I am not Hebrew, not Roman, not slave. Not from Atlantis, not from caves. I'm from the land where the sun behaves, where serpents dance and the cosmos waves. They dressed our truth in European masks, but we speak in pyramids, geometry that lasts. Your scholars study what we whispered in dreams. We build philosophy from rivers and beams. Call me rebel, call me savage, call me heathen, but I resurrect civilization still breathing. I'm the Tleito one of broken youth, preaching that decolonization is truth. This is is Aslan reborn. No Bible, no sword, just words sharper than obsidian cord. Every rhyme a ritual, every verse a prayer to awaken the millions who forgot we're still there. Yo soy la voz del maíz,
el eco de los abuelos aún por venir. No soy ilegal, soy mil naciones en mí. Soy mix zapoteco, rara morir. I'm every tribe they try to divide, of every tongue and they try to hide. The blood remembers even when we forget. We are the sun that refuses to set. No borders, no names, no shame. We are the fire before the flame. The original people, the first, the last, the future dressed in the echoes of the past.
Miras a otro lado, los fantasmas del pasado no se detendrán hasta verte derrumbado. Peores lo hemos pasado. Andaba a golpes con la tristeza, me aportó riqueza, me otorgó sabiduría, pues se dibujaba en todas mis piezas. Yo con alegría le daba color después. La aguja sigue girando, tiempo parece burlar de mí. Dijo que sanaría esperando, pero creo que la espina aún sigue ahí. Con los dedos lo voy palpando. Cierro los puños, escapa de aquí. Agonizando, no me espera el tiempo, no voy a esperar por ti. Nuestras huellas en la orilla se han borrado por la marea. Si esas estrellas ya no brillan, las entiendo.
Ical, hijo, abre los ojos. Tu cuerpo se queda con nosotros, pero tu espíritu debe seguir. Busca la luz. Aléjate de las sombras. Deja que nuestro dolor sea tu fuerza. Desde aquí iluminamos tu camino. lucha como nosotros ante esta pena tan grande. Yo soy tú. Tú eres yo. La muerte que hoy nos separa, mañana volverá a unirnos. Eres libre, hijo.